Okay, now I have the pleasure of introducing you to Sandra D'Angelo. Sandra was introduced to us by Cyrus, so thank you, Cyrus, again. And she's a professional coach, and she founded a company called Approach Your Coach. And she speaks 5 languages, originally from Croatia. She's coming to us from, guess what? Iceland. Thank you.
Wow.
Long distance. I think you're probably our farthest distance, right? She's known to be just an excellent presenter, and she was a Brains 500 global honoree, so that's pretty impressive. And she had a career previously in education, sales, and career coaching. So she is no stranger to the needs of our group. So Sandra, with that, thank you so much. And I'm going to hand it over to you.
Thank you. Wow. What an introduction. Hello, everyone. Good morning to everyone. And hello from Iceland. So we're gonna, firstly, actually, I wanted to say thanks to Cyrus for the recommendation. And once again, thank you, the whole PRG team, for inviting me. I'm very, very happy to be here with you. So I'm going to go and share my screen so that we can get going. So as you know, we are going to talk about today about top 3 reasons for why you're not getting your job, your dream job, why you're not seeing the results you want to see, and also what we can do about it right away. So you're going to get some practical tips that you can implement as soon as you get off the training today. So you're at the right spot with us today if you are applying, but not seeing the results that you truly want to see. Not yet, or you are at the point in your career where you are looking to move on. You're looking for a next step. It does not necessarily need to even be outside of the company. So the principles I'm going to share with you today, the ideas, the tips are going to be useful in both cases. So I want to really help you to move from this isn't working, or what's wrong with my profile, or where are my applications even going, to becoming more effective with your job search and feeling confident about it, enjoying it even. I know that sounds maybe like, can I even enjoy the job search? But you can, and really getting to that next step. So let's see where you might be at the moment. So some of the main things that I see individuals where they currently are in their career or in the job search, I'm just trying to, sorry about this, I'm just trying to remove my screen looks a bit weird. Anyway, so you might be applying for all sorts of positions. You go online, you go on LinkedIn, you go on different job boards, you see the role, it sounds like, yeah, this sounds like something I can do. So you just apply and apply, you don't have any clear strategy. You're also not being very consistent with the job search. You might be sending cold pitches via email or via LinkedIn, hoping that one day somebody's going to come back to you. You don't really have control over who are you sending it, why are you sending it, what are you sending it, and if you will even hear back from them. You're not having any interviews lined up at the moment, or you do have some, but you're like, nah, let's see. I'm not so super excited about them. Or you might get some interviews every now and then. They're not consistent, again, not happening regularly. And overall, the mindset you're in is, this isn't working.
Okay.
What's wrong with me? What's wrong with
it.
Sorry, somebody's not muted. If I can just ask you, sorry, to mute yourself. So you might think I'm too senior, I'm too junior, I'm too whatever, and that's why nobody wants me or nobody wants to interview me. So this is what I want to help you, or this is where I want to help you to move to. I want to help you to move to applying to those positions that fit your criteria only. So we're going to become picky about where we're applying to, and I'm going to talk about that in a minute. So you want to apply only to those positions that you're genuinely excited about, that you're genuinely like, let's go. This is the job I want to do. This is the company I want to work for. We're going to move from sending cold pitches and sounding salesy to connecting and building relationships, focusing on building long-term relationships. We're going to move from not having interviews to having interviews on a regular basis, those relevant interviews, and getting offers. So acing those interviews and getting offers. And I want you to move to being in control of the overall job search process so that you know exactly in every moment what is happening, who do I need to follow up with, what do I need to be better on, what do I need to change, how can I approach it in a different way, and that you feel focused and motivated about it. That is possible. Job search is job on its own. So let's make it enjoyable as we can. So they have given an amazing background, like intro into my profile, just quickly with my words. So I'm a certified career coach. I help my clients create careers they love. And I really, truly, strongly believe in that. We spend so many hours every day at work, so many hours of our lives. So why wouldn't we want to do the work that we genuinely love and enjoy and feel important, that it's important and impactful? So that's what I help my clients do. I've been in the career development sector for over 10 years. I also have background in recruitment. So everything that I'm going to share with you, I know you're in great hands with PRG Group here as well, but I'm going to share some other maybe aspects from different points of view as well from the recruitment background. And for the past 4 years, over 4 years, I've been running my coaching practice. I coach, train, and consult individuals and corporations on different career development topics. More information for those who are interested, you can find on my website, approachyourcoach.com. I'm also going to talk a bit about how you can potentially work with me for those who are interested in career coaching, but this is what we're going to do at the end. So this is what we're going to do today. We're going to look into 3 main reasons for why you're not in your dream job just yet. We are going to get 3 practical actions for each of those reasons for you to start working on immediately, not tomorrow, not next week, today. You still have the whole day in front of you today. Then we're going to open for Q&A at the end of the session. I'm going to go through your questions, so please feel free to put them in the chat. I'm not going to be most probably addressing them as we go, so just so that we make sure we have enough time for everything. So we're going to talk about that at the end. Also, I just want to mention, of course, feel free to take any notes, but all these slides are also going to be sent over to you as well. So if you miss something, you're going to have the recording and have the slides to go back to. Okay, so let's go. The reason number 1. Now, this is all these reasons that I'm going to share with you. Obviously, this is an extremely large topic, and we can talk about all sorts of reasons probably for days. But based on my experience working with professionals from all different continents and on all different seniority levels and different industries, positions, and so forth, these today that I'm going to share with you are most common ones. So as we're going through this training, I would like to invite you to keep asking yourself, how can this apply to me? How can this apply to my specific situation, no matter where you are in your career? All right. So this one is probably one that is the most common one, and something that I see individuals often trying to skip, but it always kind of catches up with them. So this is definitely the step that you never want to skip. You want to pause and take time to go through it. I call it the prep work, where you essentially clearly define what is that you want, right? So the reason why you might not be getting the job you want is because you're not completely specific or completely clear about what exactly do you want. So what it often happens, what I see is that, let's say you let go of the position, or you just decide to leave your current job, and what happens, you do a bit of tweaks in your CV and let's start applying immediately without thinking, what is that I want? What is that I don't want, right? And getting, again, very, very specific on that. So you didn't take time to narrow down your focus, and you're applying around, hoping that something works out. You're distracted by different shiny, so to say, positions. You're not being consistent. You're not having clarity. What is that I see myself doing as my next step? So here is what I can offer for you to do. Firstly, list down all your achievements. Now, my clients hate me first when I give them this exercise, and then they love me later because it is a bit of a draining exercise, especially if you're very, very senior. So they're like, all of them? I'm like, yes, all of them. The reason why I strongly suggest you start with this exercise is because, first and foremost, it's going to make you think of things that you might not even thought about before. Okay. Secondly, it's going to allow you to put your thoughts basically down on the paper, which allows you to get different ideas, different perspectives. Some things are going to be like, oh, wow, I didn't even think about that. So definitely take time to write them all down. If it's difficult for you to kind of, you're going to potentially reach the point in this exercise where you're going to think, I'm not sure, or this is not such a big achievement, write them all down. Don't overthink it, right? We're just putting the thoughts out on the paper. You might also want to reflect on, what do others say about working with me? What do others think as, for my achievements to be? So write it all down. This is just for your eyes. Nobody is going to see that unless you want them to see, okay? This is the first thing for you to do. Secondly, look at all these achievements. Think about what comes up for you as you go through that exercise. And based on that, and in general, move on to thinking, what are my values? What is my nature in terms of your personality? What are your skills? What are your talents? What is your knowledge? What are your interests? Write it all down. Now, I know that this exercise might not be the most enjoyable and whatever, but I promise you, and I don't promise lightly, is that this exercise on its own, it's going to bring so many new perspectives for you. It's going to really help you to narrow down your focus, because this is the most important thing. You don't want to go around applying for 25 different roles. And the reason you don't want to go is because you have to imagine that for every different role, you essentially need to learn how to present yourself, how to express the value you bring. Why are you relevant? So more of them you have, imagine how much work you're going to spend kind of selling yourself on those reasons why you are the right fit. So normally what I suggest is to have, let's say, 2 to maximum 3 different roles you're applying for, and try for them not to be way too different. Okay. And then based on your achievements, based on your values and nature and skills and so forth, think about, what positions do I want to apply for? What are you genuinely like, wow, what lights you up? What is it you want to do? What are those industries? What are the companies? You might think about of some certain names that come up for you. Write it all down. And then once you have written all that down, do some research. See what language do these companies use when they are writing their job ads. See what requirements are they looking for. Do the research on who works on these companies. Get to know them. Get genuinely curious about those environments, and get very clear why, again, you want to work for them. So this is the prep work. This is essentially really setting the foundation to ensure for your job search process to be as smooth and as specific as possible. Because more clear you are, clearer you're going to come across on the outside world. At the same time, more confused you are, either you will not be taking any action, or the action you take is going to be very ineffective. So you really don't want to skip this part. All right, let's move on. The reason number 1, and you will see that the reason number 1 is kind of, again, foundation for all the other reasons we're going to talk about today. You're not networking enough, or you're not networking properly. So what I often see is people feeling bad about networking. So what happens? You're not doing it. I don't want to talk to people. I'm not doing it. Hiding behind my screen, hoping that somebody will magically learn about me somehow. Or you're doing networking with an idea of what's in it for me. So instead of focusing on the other person and getting genuinely curious about them, which we're going to talk about in a minute, we come across as salesy, maybe aggressive. You're not properly maybe listening to them. You're not interested. You're just thinking, what's in it for me? Right? And oftentimes we don't network enough or properly because we're not clear what message do we want to kind of get across, right? So you see, again, prep work is so extremely important. Again, clearer you are on it, easier it's going to be for you to communicate that message with other people as well. So what can we do? Firstly, I really want to remind you that networking is nothing else but having a conversation with another human being, right? All this talk about, if you're very active on LinkedIn, you will see networking. It started sounding as some kind of a fancy word that just some people can do Networking is literally talking to other human beings, right? With the extra idea of being genuinely curious about the other person. Because we want to explore if they can even help us or if we can help them. So we don't want to attack immediately, hey, buy this, sell this, or, like be from this aggressive point of view. Let's ease into the conversation. I'm going to give you some examples on that. Based on your prep work, right? So by now you're clear about what roles you're applying for, you're clear about the industries, you're clear about companies, you're clear about all those points. We want to think about, all right, so who do I want to connect with specifically, and why is that person important for me to connect to? So let me give you an example of that. So let's say you did the prep work and you established that your next position is going to be, or you want it to be, let's say, senior accountant, for example. I'm just giving an example. And let's say the industry is IT, and then in the IT industry, you established or you found XY company to be of extreme interest for you. So what you want to do now is you want to go, let's say, on LinkedIn. I love LinkedIn, by the way. If you have any questions of LinkedIn, let me know as well. So you want to go on LinkedIn, and in the search button on the top left corner, you want to put XY, the name of the company. You want to press enter. You want to click on the people icon, and you're going to get the list of all people that work for that company. So now the next thing you want to ask yourself is, who is the most likely person to be the decision maker in that company when it comes to my ideal position, which is senior accountant? Right? So in that matter, that might be either the CFO, or that might be the head of finance, or that might be the head of accounting and controlling, depending on obviously the language that's used in the company, right? You're going to see who that person might be, or it might be HR, right? If you don't find maybe other people, I would recommend connecting directly with the person in your department, just because generally looking, they obviously understand a bit more about your profile, and then they can refer you to the HR, right? But this is something we can talk about later on. And then you want to connect with them. You want to send them the contact request saying, hi, Max, I just came across your profile. I'm extremely interested in your company. If you're up for it, let's connect. It's always valuable to expand networks. Something along those lines. So we want to ease into the conversation rather than being, hi, Max, I want to work for a company, connect with me. Or I'm looking for something from you, I want something immediately. Let's ease into the conversation. Later on, when Max, let's say, I'm giving an example, obviously, right? When Max accepts your request, you might be, thank you for accepting my request. I understand you are head of finance in that and that company. The reason why I got in touch with you is because, let's say, I'm interested in this and this role. And this is how I think, or I believe I might be an addition to you. So you see what I'm doing? I'm moving from I did this, I did that, to I did this, I did that, and then expanding. And this is how this is valuable to you, which brings me to the next point, which is, what is the value I can give? Give is the word we want to focus on here, to them, right? So essentially you're asking yourself, why would Max want to talk to me? Why is in Max's interest to talk to me? How can I help Max? If you scroll on LinkedIn, I don't know if you're, again, how active you are there, but what I often see when people, for example, look for jobs, they write, I'm looking for a job. And then the post goes something along the lines of, I did this, I did that, I am this, I am that, and then kind of, please connect with me. And again, it's not a wrong message, but it can be improved just by adding, just by thinking, how is what you've done relevant to someone, right? So if you say, I have 15 years in the finance department, you want to continue that by saying, and this is why that is interesting to you, or this is how your company is going to benefit from my experience. Okay. So this is the mindset, the switch we want to do. So we want to move from I and what's kind of in it for me to what's in it for them. Okay. All right. And the extra point that I put here, follow up. This is the one so many people skip. So many people skip, and yet it can be such a valuable extra tweak to do. So when coaching my clients, I often hear people being like, yeah, I sent a message, they didn't get back to me, so they're not interested. And I'm like, okay, stop. The facts there are, you send a message, they didn't get back to you. These are the facts. They are not interested is the assumption. They didn't tell you this. So we want to be careful. Now I'm doing some coaching here, right? You want to be careful. What are the facts that your brain is offering? What is the drama that our brain is offering? All right. So let's not assume, but if you already need to assume, let's assume that the person didn't see the message, right? That's so much more useful. And oftentimes is also the case. So you might want to follow up with a simple message. Hi, just a quick message to ask if you had a chance to look at my previous email or message or note. Just as simple as that. And very, very often it happens that, oh, thank you. I actually oversaw it. It actually does happen that, for example, LinkedIn, it happens to me regularly that it marks messages as read, but they're not read. I've never seen this message before, right? So why not? The worst that can happen is person being not answering to you or being, listen, I'm not interested. But then you have a closure on that, you can move on. One thing that I would actually suggest is, for example, what you can do, especially if you're like hardcore looking for a job and this is the main focus for you, you can create, let's say, every Monday from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m., for example, you have a follow-up hour. So the only thing you're doing in that hour is you're following up on everything that happened last week, people that you connected with that didn't respond, or jobs that you applied for that you haven't heard from, right? Depends, obviously. If you applied on Friday, you will not text them on Monday, right? But the idea is really to keep track of the activities you're taking and really making sure that you did everything you could, everything that was within your control to move forward with whatever action it was. Okay, let me take a bit of water. And the third reason that I've prepared here for you is, let's say you are networking, and again, you are having some interviews, or you get to the point of having interviews, but you're not getting a job because those interviews aren't converting. They're not converting because either they're not relevant, and if you don't feel the job is relevant, no matter how much you try to kind of force yourself to think it's relevant, the energy is going to come across. We just cannot fake that. Or you have an interview, it is a good role, you are excited about it, but then you have challenge in expressing why you are the right fit. You have the challenge of basically selling them on the idea that you are the right fit, because interviewing essentially sales, right? Job search is sales. Your CV is a sales paper, right? If we want to put it in a really plain words. So what can we do here? This is another exercise that is hate and love relationship with my clients, but it is be clear on why you. And this goes back to prep work, right? And now I hope you understand how important, again, the prep work is. You want to come up with 20 reasons for why are you the right fit for the role? And I know what you're thinking already. 20 reasons. How can I come up with 20 reasons? You can, it's a challenge. But again, think about it from different angles. Challenge yourself to come up, challenge yourself to be creative. No matter how small something might mean to feel to you, or how common sense it might feel to you or be to you, it might be a completely new thing for someone else. So think about it from different aspects and be as clear as possible. So let me give you an example, being specific as possible. Saying I'm a great communicator, it's not specific. What does that mean? Tell me, show me. Explain to me with your achievements or results or feedback from others, how great of a communicator you are. Try to make me visualize it, try to make me experience it in different ways. And again, as you're going through this exercise, this is going to be pretty similar again as your achievements. You want to think about, what do other people say about working with me? Why did they enjoy? Why do they think I'm a great employee? You might want to go through your reference letters as well to read. I'm not sure if you always receive those, but if you do have those or recommendations, you might want to go through them to get some extra ideas. One other thing that I would suggest to do is that, and no, I'm giving you a lot, I hope you're making notes, is, for example, when you have a job description, when you have those bullet points, you want to read one bullet point per one bullet point and think, let's say they wrote a specific requirement, and then you want to ask yourself, okay, why am I the right fit for this requirement? Or how is my experience and background relevant to them? And again, be as specific as possibly you can be. But just, I think one of the main things here is that if, and I think I've mentioned it, but I want to mention it before because it's so important, and that is, if you are not sold on yourself, so to say, you're not going to be able to communicate that with others. So you don't want to think like, yeah, I'm going to get back to that one day. No. Let's clear that up now. Let's get clear that it's like a no-brainer that someone wants to interview and hire you, right? But you need to think that. You need to believe that. Okay? And sometimes that requires a bit more work. I know. All right. So then obviously before the interview, you want to take time to research the company, research the interviewer. You want to maybe check them up on LinkedIn. You just want to make sure not to do it every day, because people can see when you check their profiles on LinkedIn, just as a tip. So you don't want to come across as every day you're checking them. You want to check the industry, competitors. You might want to get familiar with some news, what's new on the market, what are the latest trends and so forth. You want to explore that. You want to go through the job description, as I've mentioned, the role, and how are you fit to all the requirements there they've outlined there. And you want to prepare questions. As you're going through your research, you will come up with different questions. You want to note them down, and you want to make sure to ask those, right? But also the questions are going to come from the point of view as, because you are by this point very clear on what you want and what you don't want, right? So you might think about certain things that are very important to you in the work environment, or certain values and so forth. And you might want to consider kind of constructing those questions around those, right? But you definitely want to have at least, let's say, 2 solid questions for them, because it's quite, awkward when you come to the point of an interview. So what do you have, what questions do you have for us? And you're like, oh, well, none. You should have at least one good one, right? And for sure, sometimes questions also come up, or oftentimes they come up as you go through the interview as well. So also something to keep in mind. Okay. And then the third, what I want to offer is practice. Record yourself, film yourself as you're answering some of the most common questions. Glassdoor, for example, is a great tool online. You can Google it, and then you can write the names of the companies. And oftentimes you're going to find what different people say about, let's say, interview processes, or different questions they might be asking. Or you might want to Google different important questions and then pick and choose some of them and practice how you come across when you're answering them. It's very, very valuable. It really helps you to see how you come across, how you present yourself, how is your body language, right? Because oftentimes we're not really aware of how we move, right? What our body language is telling about us. So this is definitely a great, great, great learning opportunity for you, for interviews, but in general, for everything, also for presentations and whatever you do, right? And also follow up. Also here we want to follow up, right? We want to, like, at the end of the interview, what I would always advise is to ask, all right, so thank you for your time today. If you're interested in the role, you want to express, again, just to express once again that I'm very interested in proceeding. When should I expect to hear from you? Just so that you get some kind of an idea when they are planning to get back to you. And then if they don't get back to you by the day that they've told you, maybe you want to leave another day or 2, and then you might want to call them, give them a call, don't message them, call them. You get a much better feeling of what is happening. And then you might want to explore, okay, so what is happening? Do you have any feedback? What's been taking so long, right? Depending again whom you're talking with, and what kind of approach do you find to be the most, how can I say, suitable, really? Okay, but definitely follow up. Also follow up if you get rejected. Right? I never get satisfied with like, we are not the right fit, thank you, bye. Why? Tell me. Because by getting this feedback, by understanding it, you will be able to improve then for, next interviews. Now, of course, I'm aware that not every employer is going to be so nice to give you an in-depth feedback. But again, let's focus on what is within our control and what we can do. right? So one example actually specific that I have with you with one of my clients is he went through the first interview with a company that he was super fit for the position, everything amazing, and then he received the rejection email, and I told him, call them. Let's call them. Let's see what's happening. Let's ask for the right feedback, and let's recap why you are the right fit. So he called them, and he was curious, what happened? Why am I not the right fit? And they were like, yeah, but no, but not giving a proper reason. And he was like, yeah, but this is why I am the right fit. This is why you want to have me in the team, right? And he was very specific, very factual, and they did bring him back in the interview process. So it does happen. It does happen. Don't shy away from asking. It's not going to work out every time. I know, 100%, but let's try, right? Why not? There's nothing really to lose. Okay, so to summarize these three main important things, don't skip the prep work. You want to take time to get totally clear on what you want your next step to be. Allow yourself to be picky. More focused you are and more narrow you are in your job search, we often think that's going to make things like very difficult and we are limiting ourselves. But actually, if you think about it, the most specialized things are the most successful ones, because then you know exactly what you need to target, who you need to talk to, how is your approach going to be, what your message is going to be, right? So you definitely want to first get clear with yourself what you want it to be and why. Okay. Secondly, we want to focus on building genuine relationships, right? Not because you have to, and not because the focus is only on me, but because we genuinely want to, and because we want to explore how can you help them. And even if it doesn't result in a job or it doesn't result in anything monetary, you might meet, and you will for sure meet, amazing people on your journey that you might be able to help as well. So it's always a win-win, right? So instead of networking is some scary thing, networking is literally having conversations with other human beings. Let's remind ourselves of that, okay? And again, networking, that's something that I didn't mention, but networking is something that happens all the time, everywhere. So if you find maybe networking to be like, oh, I don't want to, give yourself a target to meet one new person a week. Just one new person a week. So imagine how many people, I'm not good in math, but imagine how many people that's going to be, throughout months and weeks and years and whatever. All right. And then remember, in terms of interviews, just as much as the employer is choosing you, so are you choosing them. So interview is a two-way street. Just as much as they're going to be interviewing you and exploring if you're the right fit for them, so will you be doing the same thing. So you want to be clear on your value and explore, do I even want to work with them? Can I even see myself in their team? Is the culture even fit? Do they match my values? Can I imagine myself working there, let's say in a year or two? Right? So allow again yourself to be picky about it. Okay, so that's it. I think we're actually really good on time. So this was a training that I prepared for you today. I'm going to answer some questions. But before we go into questions, I want to share with you and give you an opportunity to start working on these and other steps when it comes to job search in an environment where you would be one-on-one with me. I want to help you to speed up your job search process or any process when it comes to reaching the next level in your career, because more you wait, more opportunities obviously are passing by for you to meet people, for you to get interviews, and for you to start the new job. So for those of you who are interested in coaching, in career coaching with me, here is what would working with me look like. So I offer one-on-one career coaching that is tailored to your specific situation and needs. I don't personally believe in one size fits all. So we would always obviously review your situation, review where you are in your life, in your career, and adjust our approach to you. We would go through 12 sessions via Zoom. Normally, those sessions happen weekly, once per week for 60 minutes. You get a written follow-up after each session with the main points that we've discussed in the session, and also a very clear step-by-step what you need to be doing from when we met to the next session of ours. And you get Ask Your Coach ongoing support in between sessions. And how that looks like is either via email, you can get in touch with me, or an application that I use with my clients is called Voxer, which is something similar to WhatsApp. So you can always reach out to me for any questions, any challenges, any ideas, any celebrations. I love to be a part of my clients' journey, not just once per week, but throughout the whole time we work together. So the first step for you would be to book a free consult call. This is how you can connect with me. In the consult call, we would discuss where you're at, where you wish to be, and see if we're the right fit to working together. Because remember, right, it's a two-way street. Do we fit? And if we fit, we're going to go ahead and book the first session. Okay, so here we go. Now over to you. Let me see. I'm going to stop sharing. Okay, let me open the chat.
Okay, so this is wonderful. You said a couple things that, and I love how you worded it. Be picky.
Yes.
And you know what? I think sometimes I hear so many executives say, well, I know what I want, but they're thinking more about almost coming from a fear standpoint of, am I wanted somewhere else, rather than turning the tables and saying, I know I have a lot to offer and I should be picky.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You know, one of the things, for example, that's so great that you pointed it out. Thank you for that. Like, it's really about reframing or changing the perspective. So let me give an example of that. What I often see is, let's say, on Fishbowl, by the way, I see those kind of comments. If you're not familiar, it's a new platform, anonymous, you can pose different questions, whatever. Anyway, like, I see it in this way. I have, let's say, 15 years of experience in this and this. I did blah, blah, blah. Where would they want me? Kind of, you know, along those lines, like, where can I work? And what I want to offer to you is, instead of saying these kind of things, is that, okay, you have that kind of experience. Where do you want to work, and how can you present yourself to be the value, to bring value to such an environment, right? So it's not a question if you are the fit, but how can you demonstrate that you are in fact a fit? Does this make sense?
It does. It's really interesting, because the other thing that I wrote down, be clear about why you, and you know, come up with so it's like, be picky and be clear about why you, and then you're approaching it from a different mindset.
Yeah, because often I see at least, people going in interviews or looking for a job with the mindset of kind of, I'm doing them a favor, you know, kind of, in a way, I'm below them. So something along those lines. I don't really know how to put that in words, but I hope you understand what I mean, right? No, right? You're bringing so many incredible things to that company. You've achieved so much. You worked hard to get to wherever you are in your career. So it's literally about getting, what I mentioned, sold on yourself first, right? To understand why me, and then going out there and communicating that. And that's why those key 2 exercises that I know are hate and love relationship exercises, but listing your achievements and getting clear, why me? 20 reasons why you.
And I like what you just said, sell yourself first. That's awesome. Okay, who has a question? This is your chance to be with Sandra.
Hi.
Nathan.
Yes. Hi. Nice meeting everybody. I have 2 questions actually. The first one is, obviously, when you're submitting applications on LinkedIn, Indeed, ZipRecruiter, they just see a piece of paper. They don't see who you are. Mm-hmm. And so getting that across, that message across, is based on a piece of paper. Right. So because when you're saying do research about the company, it's until the interview process, when you see like, hey, we want to talk to you, and then that's when I said, okay, they're interested in me, then I do the research, correct?
Okay, so let me put it this way. I hope I understood your question, and I hope this will answer it. If not, please let me know, right? So if we do the prep work that we talked about, this next step after that would be, you go into your CV and you make sure that all those kind of ideas, again, why me and achievements and so forth are in there. Now, CV is a paper that obviously focuses on what you've done in the past, showcases your experience, but all that experience needs to be relevant to what you're applying for, right? So let's say, for example, if you have strong marketing experience, but you're now applying for a sales role, right? You of course want to write about your marketing experience, but you want to think about how is all that marketing experience relevant to my sale, to the next role, sales role. Now, on the company's website, you're going to see the job description, you're going to see the requirements. You might want to do some research on the people who work in that company to understand about their backgrounds, and then see, not to copy paste, obviously, or lie, never, I'm not suggesting that, but to see what is the language that would be the easiest for them to understand and for me to present myself as valuable addition to their team.
No, I understand. And it makes totally sense. My question is a little bit more like, because let's say every single day I apply for 10 jobs that I saw on LinkedIn, you know, and it is like, it looks good, is it good? So I apply. So I didn't do the research just because I saw the post, the job post, and it said like, oh, this looks good. So until I had a feedback from them, if they're interested in me, that's when I do the research.
Okay, I understand. Yes, in that case, yes. However, to make this more effective, what I would suggest, instead of apply, and never looking at them again, create an Excel sheet, put down all those roles that you applied for, and you want to take a minute or two to do the, you remember when I was talking about whom you want to connect with? So let's say you're applying again for XY role in XY company, find the most probable hiring manager that's going to be in that company for that role and connect with that person.
Got it. And my second question, really quick, is the follow-up. Once that initial stage, it is like the interview, and that's when the follow-up needs to be happening.
Right. Like, so, I mean, follow-up, depending, like, is it just you are connecting with people without specific job? But then if it's a specific job, you have sent your application, you haven't heard from them, right? So we can even regard interview. Let's forget about interview. Let's say you just applied for the role, you haven't heard from them. Me personally, I would leave a week and I would call the company. I know that a lot of people are, oh no, let's not call, but I would call them because it's going to give me a much better and quicker overview of what is happening and what are my chances.
Thank you so much.
You're so very welcome.
All right, Chris, you have a question.
Yes. Thank you for this. This was really helpful and kind of, not new, but like clarifying, like putting together ideas in a really good way. My question is on the first reason. One of the things I've struggled with is that question of focus, because frankly, I'm interested in so many things. Like, the idea of joining a startup group that's very, very small, the idea of going back to a huge company, I find both of those exciting. I'm interested across industries. How do I mesh that with the focus? Not so much in the interview, because obviously I can tailor that to whomever I'm talking to, but in the networking, like when I'm talking with people, not just for a particular position. Do you have any suggestions on that?
Yes, absolutely. Okay, so I just want to point one thing out, and that is we all have a lot of interests, but having a lot of interest doesn't mean we need to entertain those interests, right? So, and also the fact that you can do something doesn't mean you should really do it. Okay, so that's one side of the question or the answer. The second thing that I want to say is that if you are genuinely so super passionate about both startups and working on corporations, see it as two separate things. Sell yourself on the idea of you working in a startup and why is it a no-brainer for a startup to hire you, and do the same for the bigger company. And then as you're talking to people, just do it simultaneously if that is something you can do. I personally like to advise to try to make it like, to focus maybe on one and then on the other. But if you're really strongly feeling about both, you can do the same work for both at the same time.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
All right. What other questions do we have? Tom Pleichert.
Sandra, I've got a question for you. So most of the networking events that I attend are one of two different things. Either there are a lot of people that are in transition looking for other opportunities, so they're not really the right people that'll help me achieve getting my next position, or I'm going to something that's a team of CEOs, CFOs, and so forth, where it's not really an opportunity, and it's very difficult to sit down at the same table as those people, if you will, to talk about it. So when you talk about networking and so forth, what's the right strategy if I'm in a senior position that I report to a CEO and so forth, that I could actually get that person's attention? What are those networking events that you think that are that lead to that?
Right. So one of the things that I found to be very successful and effective when it comes to this is going through referrals. Right. So oftentimes we think we need a completely new network and a completely new audience, when in reality, we don't spend enough time in our already existing audience. So maybe something for you to consider is write down the list. I love lists, as you can see by now, right? Write down the list of all the people that you know from your past, from your, I mean, I wanted to say future, that's a bit scary, but you know, from your past companies, your past colleagues, your friends, even your family. I had a client who said, my sister knows the CEO of another company. I was like, good morning, right? All of them, write all of them down and ask yourself, whom can I reconnect with? And when you are reconnecting to those people, even if they cannot help you, you can be like, listen, whom do you know who can help me? This is my situation. Whom should I call? Don't ask them, do you know someone? Because the answer will probably be no. But ask them, whom do you know that I should get in touch with? And then if they tell you, I'm going to think about it and I'm going to get back to you, don't think that they will get back to you. Write in your calendar that you need to follow up with them. Because it's not their job to get back to you, it's your job to follow up. Follow up is so important. So try with that. You're very, very welcome.
Okay, so Tina has a question, and what she's really asking is, can you comment on how things have changed, any new trends, any modifications to your approach from the latest, or I guess most recent trends, and how do you break through the recruiter?
Yeah, I'm just reading, it's in the chat, right?
Yes.
Okay, right. So one of my corporate clients is actually a recruitment agency, so I'm very well aware of what is happening. So at the moment, there are a lot of candidates looking for jobs. So it's a very candidate-driven market, meaning there are not that many roles and there are so many candidates around. So when it comes to you working with a recruiter, this is my warmest suggestion. That is, find a recruiter who is ideally specialized in recruiting people with your backgrounds. Because recruiters who are specialized in such roles, usually, we cannot generalize, but usually have strong network in those areas. So for example, I used to recruit in different areas, but my most recent one was finance. So I was working only and exclusively with finance professionals. So my, how can I say, my client base was so strong that when I had someone, I knew exactly where to send them immediately. And you knew exactly where they would fit, right? So that's one thing. Specialized recruiters, I would highly suggest, as much as that is possible. Secondly, you want to be in regular contact with your recruiter. That doesn't mean every day. Please don't be one of those. I've had that as well. But you want to, regularly connect with your recruiter. Hey, what's happening, right? What's going on? Any news on my profile? Because remember, any recruitment agency works in a way that they have hundreds of thousands of candidates. And if you don't kind of stay in their mind, unfortunately, they're not going to remember you. And that has nothing to do with you. It has to do with, they go in their database, they input the keywords, and they search for the candidates that come up. Doesn't mean that they don't like you or that something is wrong with you. No, it just means that you aren't in their mind. So I would definitely connect on that regard. And if it's possible, depending obviously on the location, you might want to meet for a coffee as well, if that is, or Zoom, right? We are, that's popular today. So that's something I would definitely suggest.
Okay, one more question. Who has it?
It really comes down to building relationships, really. I mean, in terms of recruitment.
Anybody have one more question? Okay, I guess not. Speak now or forever hold your peace. But Sandra, this has really been.
Can I just make a comment?
Oh yeah, Tina.
Yeah, I just follow up on that. Sandra, thanks for your reply. And I agree with you so much that it does come down building relationships. And I love your approach of also thinking about what you have to offer and thinking about the other person and listening. I think that's a key piece to building those relationships. But it's just interesting. I don't know, in my view, it seems like the trend with AI and everything being driven by algorithms, it feels like we've lost that personal touch, and that you just feel like a number, right? And so I guess that's the I appreciate your perspective to follow up with a recruiter, because it does seem like everyone is just overwhelmed with data, and how do you get through the data and be on top and make those connections.
Well, and Sandra, you also mentioned the relationship, and it's not just the relationship with the recruiter, it's the relationship with people within that organization. And it's like, we can't minimize that. It is so important to develop relationships, because when people talk about you, right, and that's what you keep on saying, it's about the relationship. It's about developing relationships, and not, how did you word it? You said, not because you have to, but because you want to.
Right. And it all comes down to, firstly and foremost, remember, prep work, establish that relationship and confidence with yourself. And then go out there. It always starts with us, right? And just on that note, Tina, what you mentioned, thank you for your comment. I just want to say, all these, very automatic things nowadays are becoming trendy. I personally am, just because everyone is so automatic, I want to be even more personal. I want to pick up that phone. I want to call that person. I want them to hear my voice. I want to hear their voice. I want to feel what's happening, right? So don't get lost in all these trends. Exactly, like, make sure to present yourself in your way, who you specifically are, because that is the most attractive at the end of the day as well.
And we work with so many clients, and every client would rather have a personal referral than go through the recruiting process. There is not one client who likes the recruiting process instead of personal referrals. And so you can't get away from relationships, no matter what. Just make relationships, create connections. And what I like to say is, when you touch someone's heart, they remember you.
Yeah.
All right. So speaking of touching hearts, Sandra, you touched our heart. Thank you so much. We've appreciated you. And we hope you come back again. Love your energy. Love the messages, the pearls that you shared with us. And you all go out and have a great day. Enjoy the week. Enjoy the rest of the summer. And we'll see you either next week or the following week. I don't know. John.
Thank you all so much.
2 weeks.
2 weeks. We'll see you in 2 weeks. Thanks, Sandra. Enjoy Iceland. Stay safe. Bye.
Thank you, Sandra.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.